how does that push you to keep going instead of stopping you? I'm talking from losing a loved one to being in prison.
One of the most mind-blowing stories that I've heard of.
I share it because I want people to know that it is hard. I just had to push myself.
That mindset evolved over time, or has it remained the same?
My mind frame shifted. Can we do some things that we're actually helping others grow? And be proud of yourself, be proud of your team, like thank everyone, like don't forget. As long as you can just remember that and know that that is part of life, doesn't mean you can't.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Diehard Entrepreneur Stories. Man, oh man, today do I have a story for you. So today I get to talk with Jesse Trujillo. Jesse is a real estate investor. He owns AJX Homes and AJX Capital. They have over $100 million assets under management. And he has such an incredible story, from bankruptcy to being wrongfully imprisoned and losing it all, to losing his mom and then losing his dad. And it's just so impactful. If you are the type of person that is just feel like, man, I'm struggling in this market, I'm struggling to get deals, my business is just, everything's going downhill and it seems like I'm at rock bottom, then this is the episode for you. Jesse talks about what was going through his head, the mindset that has led him to where he's at now. And we also cover a lot of team building. He talks about how learning to build a team. He's got a team of over 40 people at this point, and really learning how to build that quality team over the last 2 years is what's truly unlocked his success and just sort of unbridled him and the company. So without further ado, let's get into it. Well, Jesse, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks, Devin. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So Jesse, I can't wait to get into your story. You have one of, man, not just the most adversarial stories, but several different points of like major adversity along the way. Before we get into that, I've never heard how you even got into real estate in the first place. If you could share a little bit of that, that'd be great.
Yeah, no problem. So actually, believe it or not, I was studying to be a doctor. I was undergraduate at UCSD, straight out of high school. My goal was to be a trauma surgeon. That kind of was exciting for me and kind of get into that. I, started working as an undergrad at a perinatal research laboratory on campus, and ended up working there for many years. And I was building myself up, and I actually worked my way up to the head surgeon of that laboratory. And I was working with a bunch of doctors there that I would look up to. And on the side, my sister was graduating from state, becoming a teacher, moving out of our parents' house. And she came home one day and she told me, I'm moving out. I'm going to go get an apartment, And I remember telling her, you know what, you should buy, don't rent. Because I'd always heard that. I never knew what it meant. I just kind of said it. And she's like, oh, I can't do that. I racked up my credit cards at school, on campus and everything. I said, I don't even know where my credit's at. I said, well, what if I look into it? She's like, go ahead. So I just kind of took it as a little side project, and I looked up how to fix credit. I got her credit score up. I met a lender. She took me under her wing, kind of showed me how that, works. We got her approved. And then I got her a 3-bedroom condo kind of by my parents' house that we rented out 2 rooms and to students nearby, to a junior college. And she was living there for like $100-$200 a month. And so when she closed on that property, I think I was more excited than her. It was like a rush. And after that, I'm still at school and studying and things. And I said, hey, what if we could buy another? And she's like, well, if you could figure it out, go ahead. Then I bought her another rental a couple months later, then another. We got to like 10 to 12 rentals. And me, I'm still going to school. I'm loving it, but at the same time, they got too much, right? I'm just, I told my sister, hey, you have to make a decision. You probably go get a property manager or sell them. And she kind of looked at me and goes, well, just sell them. So I'm like, okay. So I got a realtor. They started selling them. By the way, these are all my sisters. I started seeing that the market had gone up and the check she was getting was incredible. And I thought, wow, that's a business. Little did I know that's flipping to a certain degree, And so it obviously got me even more excited. I decided to go buy my first deal while I was in college. It was $40,000. It was here in San Diego, and it was a studio. I was there painting at night with reading my chemistry book, shocking myself, changing the plugs. And I think I made $5,000 after. But for me, a starving student, that was like the best day ever. And that's all it took. After that, just started buying one here, one there. But what really made me make the switch to completely go all in was me kind of doing that. And the doctors that I was working with, I would be telling them stories. And they on different occasions, a couple of doctors came to me and they said, man, Jesse, I'd rather do what you're doing. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I want to do what you're doing. And you're saying you want to do what I'm doing. And they said, Jesse, being a doctor is great, but the bureaucracies, the insurance, the things you have to deal with is not what it's all cut up to be. And I was like, wow, that's so I really just made a decision. I left in 2006, went all in. But then, of course, the market crash, 2008, kind of wiped me out. I was doing a lot of high-end homes in San Diego. And then, but I decided to come back. I had to make a decision of, do I want to go back to school or go back to real estate? I asked my wife, we had a newborn baby, and she's like, do what you love. And I said, all right, I'm going back to real estate. Wasn't easy. But then again, we got one deal in 2009, made about 60,000. And I used that 60,000 to do 20 flips in 2010. And since then, we've just been growing and growing.
Man, that is amazing. It's so cool to see that just this, it sounds like genuine curiosity and this problem solving mindset led you to like open up this whole can of worms that like you had no clue how great it was and the timing of it, right? Because this is so this all happened with your sister pre 2008 crash and everything like that, right?
Right. So things were going up. It was a great time. Again, learning lessons of now going through the downturn, knowing what to look out for and things like that. So hate to say it. I take the positives out of it, hate losing money, but at the same time, like that makes me stronger now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about that a little bit because you really like your first, maybe not your first one. I'll let you phrase it how you want, but one of the first big moments of adversity that you had was having to file for bankruptcy because of everything that went on in the market in 2008, correct?
Yeah. It wasn't fun. I hated it, right? I was one of those guys that my credit always needed to be impeccable. Like I love knowing that it was in the 700, close to 800s. Like that was just a no brainer for me. Like in the world we live in, your credit is so important. And to know that to have to do a bankruptcy, it just ate me alive to think about it. And I had no choice, right? That was my last option. And we did bankruptcy like so many others did during that time, but learning from that since then, we've been great and keeping our scores up and knowing the importance of it. It's just, even though you have it on your credit, and it was even harder for me to keep going after that, it doesn't stop us, right? Me and my wife, we just kept going. Nothing's ever going to be perfect in my opinion. And when it is, you're lucky, but it's not, it's usually reality is it's never going to be perfect. And if I wanted to wait till my bankruptcy was done and till my credit score was back up, I would have waited 10 years. The next day during the bankruptcy, I was already keep going. I don't wait, and that's what I think it's so huge to say that to people, to show my kids that things happen in life and it can't let you, bring you down to stop what you're doing, to hit your goals, to hit, where your plan is to be. So, it wasn't fun, but like I said, it was a learning lesson as well. Don't want to be there again. And, it's learning from that and making sure that you're making right decisions.
Yeah, for sure. You sound very action oriented. Do you think that's what's led to a lot of your success is just this, you're like, hey, I'm not waiting. I'm just going to go and I'm just going to figure it out versus like all the analysis paralysis.
Those who know me, especially if you ask my wife and kids, if you don't ask, you'll never know, right? The worst they can say is no. I teach my kids that every day. Like, you don't know, like just ask. Worst case they say no. If they say no, oh well, at least you asked. You'd never know. And that's my mentality. I'm persistent. My perseverance. I talk about determination, and determination, in my opinion, doesn't ask for permission. Like you don't ask for permission. You just go and do it. You're going to get knocked down sometimes. You're going to get no's. You're going to get doors closed in your face, but you keep going until you get a yes. And if you go with that mentality in life and anything you do, like, I think that's what shocks people sometimes. I'll go ask something that people are like, I would never have asked that. And I said, well, that's sadly why I sometimes won't get ahead, because I get yeses and people are like, what? I can't believe you just asked for that. I'm going to give you an example. I think we were renewing our our websites here, right? And our servicing company, we've been with for years. And I saw a bill that came through, and I just called them and I said, hey, we've been with you for a couple of years. Could we get a discount? They literally knocked off. They just sent us a refund for $100 randomly, just because they knocked it off because I asked. So it's having that mentality of asking. The worst they could say is no. There's a difference of being too persistent and too aggressive. I don't like that, right? But if you go in the right way and ask, and you're not doing it in the wrong frame of mind, there's nothing wrong to it. That's why so many people that are ahead, my mentors that I know, they're the guys that ask always.
I love that. And you brought up such a good point, Jesse. For you, how do you know the balance? Because exactly what you just said is something maybe the last 6 months or so I know I've realized. And it's sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't want to be too aggressive. But what I realize is I am so far away from that. Right now, I just need to ask. And I started asking, like, one of the big things is, well, like asking you on the podcast and stuff, like just reaching out to people that, like, I don't even think about it. I'm like, what's the worst they're going to say? No. Like, it's opened up doors. Like, we've had amazing guests. And then that's just one instance, right? So for you, like, I'm not at that point yet, but how do you know, like, where do you find the balance of, like, being persistent, being too aggressive, and just like boldly asking?
Know that as I say that, you're going to get people that for their liking, you're too aggressive, right? For their liking, you're too much. So everyone's different, and you can come across to certain people a certain way. I think as long as you have a moral compass in yourself, and you're going to know if you're disrespecting, as long as you're not disrespecting someone, asking for something that's, I don't know, not appropriate. I think that's, and I say that, like, when we ask for we're negotiating properties, right? All the time. I'd rather see flips that we do. We've done over 1,000 flips. They've come to us, and where you would think, I don't want to disrespect them by giving them a low ball, but that's the number that works for my company. That's the number. We've done our due diligence. I'm not throwing a number that I'm just coming out in top of my head or in the air. Just, let's see if they take it. No, we've done our homework and due diligence. So when you know that, I feel confident throwing that number because I have data to back it up. So I think that's kind of the difference, right? When you go to someone and I show them, this is the number and this is why, right? Sometimes you're asking for something, but you tell them why, because they might go, oh, you're just being rude and coming up with that number. No, here's why. Here's my data. We've gotten so many deals because they go, oh, I get it. Oh, I see what you're saying. And I tell them, here's my number. Great if you take it. And if you find someone else that makes you more money, great. But guess what? Here's where I'm at. At least you know. At least you know where I'm your backup offer, right? If you need me. And I've had so many agents and wholesalers come back to us because they appreciated that we gave them that low ball because they couldn't sell it at the number they were trying to sell. And they came back to us and maybe they renegotiated or they kind of brought it up to their sellers and now they understood why. And now here we are buying it. But if I would have never have asked, we would have never gotten that deal.
Man, it's so good you say that. I tell all of my, I wholesale as well. And I flip, but I tell all my buyers, I'm like, guys, like, if you're going to spend the time to underwrite this deal, please send me a number because you never know what's going on my side. And I have gone back to the homeowner and said, hey, here's kind of the deal. We were off on this. We own this, but here's where I'm at now. You can walk or you can take it. And then they'll say, okay, I understand. Let's do it. And then I go back to the end buyer and I say, hey, okay, I can do your price. Like, if here's where you're at, like, here's where I can be. And so, like, I love that you said that because it's like, I'm sure you've seen the benefits on your end, but like, absolutely. Love it. Love it.
You know what you just said, I think what the biggest thing from that story for me is that I've had, there's a team of 40 of us, right? So, I have different teams in different markets. But when I sometimes meet a wholesaler or randomly we're talking and he says, hey, man, I just want to say thank you. I love that your team always gives me a number no matter what. And I love hearing that. And because why? They're appreciative of it. The wholesalers that don't appreciate or get offended, sadly, they're not looking at the bigger picture. Like, it's better to have a number than not have a number.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Jesse, it also sounds like, I don't know what the opposite of being risk averse is, whatever the opposite is of that, but like, you have no issues with risk. Cause if I heard you correctly, you, during that time with the bankruptcy, you did one property, made $60K, and then parlayed that into, I think you said 12 or 20 other flips, something like that. Is that right?
20 flips in 2010. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So is that still how you operate to this day, or has that shifted and changed over the time? Or am I just completely off in like seeing that as risk?
So I was about to say, so here's the thing. People see that as risk. What they hear it, right? Oh my God, you went all in on 20. Like, that's risky. Well, it was, I mean, there's always a risk in anything you do, in any type of investments and everything you do, right? But it's calculated risk. I think what people don't see, people don't hear that behind the scenes. Like, I know it's considered a risk, and everything I do today is considered a risk, and it is different for people. But that's where the education comes into play. Like, they don't know behind the scenes, all those 20 properties, I did my due diligence on those. I made sure I bought them at the right price, that I felt comfortable in the market we were in, that I can sell those. I knew what my rehab numbers were. So it's a risk, but I did everything with a calculated risk. If not, I could tell you the lenders that lent me on those 20 properties that year, they would have never have lent to me. They saw that I was being very detailed and making sure that I tell people, we built the company, AJX Capital and AJX Homes, by investors. Without my investors, I'm nothing. I'm so appreciative of them. And they're number one in my book. I mean, without my investors, I wouldn't be here. Then it trickles down, right? My team. I mean, there's everyone's included, and everyone has something to lose here if we lose. It's not just me as the owner, right? It's everyone. So for me, treating their money on that is something that if it were my money, that I would be putting it in there, and I have my money in there as well. So it's kind of like treating every investment that you do, every purchase, especially if you're using not only your own money, but other people's money, you have to look at it is, would I invest in this, right? Am I doing my full due diligence on these properties to make sure that I am not putting their money at risk if there's no need? So I think I hear the word risk, and it's different for everyone, right? Everyone has, but I think the important thing is educate yourself on, okay, here's the risk. What are the things that I can data-wise that I can actually prove or check to make sure that it's a calculated risk? I think that's my biggest takeaway on that. So, everyone has that different feeling. And I'll share a little story about an investor. And, I'm not going to say his name. He's one of my good friends now. It was such a long time ago. I met him at a RIA here in San Diego. And he came up to me and he went to one of our flips and he checked it out. And he's like, oh man, hey, I've been wanting to do flips, wanted to learn it. He says, after watching everything you guys have to do, I don't want to do it. I'd rather invest with you. And I was like, cool. And he gave us 20 grand and he invested with us. He was going to that property every day to see if we were working on it. And I look back and I remember having contractors would call me, hey, there's someone here. I was like, hey, it's okay. Let him, But I can tell you, it's about building relationships. He did that. Then he went to once a week. Then he went to once a month. Then, I could tell you, here we are, fast forward 10 to 15 years later. He already has close to $1 million with us. He doesn't even, I almost have to beg him, can you just look at the property I'm sending you so you know? But we've built so much trust over the years that he feels that comfortable. So where I'm going with that is, he saw it as a risk, right? I mean, he was scared from day one until he got to know us, until he saw that we had our process in place, until we saw that we're buying, until we proved we sold that property. And now we went to the next one and the next one sold well. It's showing that risk can be minimized with the right people, with the right team, with the right process.
Man, that is so good. So good, Jesse. Well, okay. So after your bankruptcy, you start to recover, and then you hit another rough patch, I guess is maybe an understatement. Jesse, I'd love for you to share that story. This is one of the most mind-blowing stories that I've heard of. But I would love for you to share it about you getting imprisoned and all of that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't mind it. I've been sharing this story lately to people are always going through some adversity in life, big or small. And it's kind of what you do with it, right? And how does that push you to keep going instead of stopping you, there in your tracks, right? And I've been talking from losing a loved one to being in prison to being in trouble to losing, like I say, your portfolio, to foreclosing on a property. Well, in 2008, obviously, again, we were selling some properties back then. Well, in 2012, I get a knock on my door, right? My company's doing great. And it's over there, it's a sheriff, and he's like, Jesse Trujillo. I said, yeah, you have to come with me. And I was like, oh, he just said my name. Takes me down. I said, what's going on? It said, it's a sealed indictment. I can't tell you. I was like, oh man, that doesn't sound good at all. So here I am in jail downtown San Diego, and they're there, and they're not telling us anything, right? They're not telling me anything. And what I ended up finding out is that 4 years before, 2 of the properties that we had sold, a lender person that I knew had come in and said, Jesse, I got 2 buyers for your properties. I'm doing the loans on them. I'm going to be their landlord, their property manager. Can you help us rent them out? So by the time we close, we already have a tenant there. And I'm like, sure, man, that's great. I thank you for buying them. I'm all in. We were really even making profit because I was in the downturn, right? So it was just like, oh, I'll help you out. Put all the contracts from the tenants in their name. Never thought anything of it. We closed and moved on. 4 years later, we ended up finding out that he had a fraudulent operation in San Diego County and 2 other counties here in California, that they were buying properties with stolen identities, renting them, keeping the rent, and letting them foreclose. So when that happened, so now we find out, okay, that's why. And it's like, why did they include me? Because when they did their investigations, they knocked on the doors. The tenant, they asked tenants, who rented these to you? And they said, Jesse Trujillo did. And so that's how I got involved. So knowing that I didn't have the involvement in, I got a grade school friend, known him for a very long time, went to high school with him, doing very well for himself as an attorney here in San Diego. Had my wife call him, met up with him, told him the story, says, Jesse, don't worry about it. I got you. I'll prove your innocence. You just keep going back to work. As easy as that sounded, it was a very tough time, right, to deal with everything that had just gone through. But I went back to work, right? And we were working well, doing very well again. And then, I get a call about a year later, and he says, Jesse, I need you to come to my office. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And he says, it was Thanksgiving Day, 2013. Go to his office. I'm like, he's like, hey, they want to include your family that was on title with you on those 2 properties. And I'm like, why would they want to do it? It says, I don't know. But don't worry, I got you. I'm going to make sure if you sign here, they won't mess with them. And 2, I'll still prove your innocence and you don't have to worry about it. I said, all right, here's an attorney that's in his profession that you're trusting, right? This is the guy. I tell people to trust but verify. Did I read all the documents? The reality is probably not. How many of us read documents on mortgages, on solar, on all these different things, right? Your insurance policies. So I trusted this guy. I signed it. A couple of weeks later, here we are thinking we're going to the arraignment where they're going to just, say, thank you very much, but you got, you're good, and put it all behind us. Had my family with us, not my kids, but just my wife and some other family members, my sisters. And we're all there just knowing that this is going away finally. After, 2 years, this is just going away, and we're going to go have, lunch or dinner somewhere after. Well, we're in there. The judge is looking at the forms. And he's looking at the forms, looking at me, looking at the forms, looking at me. And he goes, are you sure you want to do this? And when he said that, I was like, ooh, that didn't sound good. And I looked at my attorney, and my attorney nodded his head at me. And I looked back and I said, yes, Your Honor. And he said, bailiff, take him away for 5 years. And it was in that moment that it was a complete shock in the whole courthouse right there that I was like, what just happened? I hadn't prepared my company. I hadn't said goodbye to my kids. I hadn't even told my mom this whole situation because that was never a point on worrying her. And so they are sending me, my attorney's crying and putting on a show. And we find out it was a show because we found out later he was on the news a couple months later for money laundering millions and millions of dollars for some very bad people. And he got arrested by the federal government. We ended up finding out he never turned in the evidence to prove my innocence. He never was working on my case. He was just taking money, charging me very costly for him representing me. So he was never there to help me out, right? The one person I put my freedom in his hands, he was there to mess me up instead of help me. So here I am in there. Sadly, find out a couple months later, my mom gets Lou Gehrig's disease. And I just had I wanted to go see her. So I fought my way up to fire camp. I know you look at me, you're like, oh, that guy looks like a firefighter. But, I worked out and stuff. And I got to there and I got to see my mom 3 more times. But by the time I saw her, she was already, she couldn't speak anymore. She was eating through a feeding tube. And I saw her 3 more times and she passed away while I was in there. I had to get my mind right. And I started looking at the documents, the thousands of documents, that were through the cases. Like, man, what happened? I ended up finding a paperwork in there that no one had ever showed me, including my attorney. that there was a clerical error given to the attorney, to the district attorney, of the amount of money that the banks lost. No one took into consideration that they resold these properties. So the amount of money that the reason why they sent me to prison was completely wrong, from close to $1 million to right around $30,000. It was something that it was too late to go back in because I was almost out. So, I came out I went to attorneys that wouldn't fight it. They said, by the time you're done, it's not going to be worth it. I came out in 2016 and ended up doing only 2 years, but 2 horrible years, if you want to say. But I literally came out broke. And when I had to make a decision, I ran into a quote. I remember right when I came out. It's from Frank Sinatra, and he said, "The greatest revenge is massive success." And I loved it because I was mad at the world. I was mad at everything that I had just gone through. I was mad at everything I've done. But I said, I know it's not good for the heart or the soul. So I really made sure I ran with that quote, and I made that my mission. And I said, that's how I'm going to prove my revenge. I'm going to take us back on top. And so I kissed my wife, hugged my kids, and I went to work. And within the 5 years, by 2021, I had taken us to a $15 million net worth, by really working in real estate and kind of getting us back on top.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Such an incredible story, Jesse. Looking back at it from where you're at now, what would you say? I mean, I'm sure there were several, but do you vividly remember the lowest point during that time?
Yeah. I mean, there were several, there were several. I mean, obviously, even from day one, the moment they arrested me and I didn't know why they arrested you, I'm looking at these walls thinking, what is happening? Am I ever getting out? What happened? What is going on? In there, losing my mother was probably the second hardest thing. There were other times of, I'm not going to go into details, but there were some tough times in there where, your life is in danger. And I went through some pretty crazy things that I look back at that I can't erase. I can't erase them. All I can do is advocate for some of these people that, there's people that should be in there, and there's also people that have gone through the system and got taken advantage of because they don't speak English, because of this, that, they didn't have the right representation. And I think I mentioned to you, we actually donated our office recently to be used by the Innocent Center here in San Diego. And it's a nonprofit organization by attorneys that all they do is help free people that have been wrongfully imprisoned. It's just something dear to my heart now that me going through it in a smaller way compared to some of the people they're helping is the way I can give back,
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So I guess my question is in those moments, man, how do you begin the process to even climb out of that? What was that like for you?
I can tell you, I tell my story and I don't say it to show off. I share it because I want people to know that it is hard. It wasn't easy. It was hard to wake up in the morning. It was hard to get out of bed. I just had to push myself. I tell people, everyone talks about your why, right? Who's your why? And a lot of people will automatically say, and I say it to my kids, my wife, my family, my parents, whoever, right? My friends, someone in their life. That's okay that they're your why, but your first why should be you. And when you make you your why, that changes the game. And here I am thinking I want to do things for my kids, but I should always be working on myself first to make yourself happy, because that will resonate more to them than anything else. So that's the biggest thing that I think helped me push to keep going. I found a little video on YouTube that was motivational and I loved it. And I would play it every day. I still play it to these, every so often here, just in the mornings, just to kind of get me back in that mind frame. Because I could tell you, your mind is something so important that you got to work on that I think a lot of us don't. This year, I share what's my focus? People were asking me, and I said, it's a strong mind, strong body, strong business. And because all three of them help each other. The strong mind, if you don't have a strong mind, you can't even push to be a strong body, which for a lot of people, it's not even a lot, but that is something if I couldn't put my mind right, I couldn't even work on my strong body, right? And then being those two, it changes the game for your business. You're clear, you're focused. What's the point on making money if you're not even healthy enough to enjoy it? Do you know what I mean? And it's something a mentor told me like that. And I always remember man, that makes, it's such a simple saying, but it makes so much sense. Jesse, why are you working so hard when you're not even taking care of yourself? Like, oh, it was like a switch, right? You're right. What's the point? I love traveling. I have 2 kids and a 17-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. We love to do things, right? We love to travel, and we get to do that because we work hard, right? Because we're investing in things and making passive income and making active income in real estate. And I want my kids to understand money comes and goes. It doesn't, but the memories is something no one can ever take away from us. So to invest in memories is so important for me, to use what we're doing and to give back. Like I think I mentioned to you, we've been, it's called the Global Impact Initiative. And we've been doing and building houses. It's like the 6th trip. We've gone to Latin America and build houses for, in a couple of days for people. And it's understanding about how, I want to say lucky and blessed we are, right? And I want my kids to grow up knowing that. And how awesome is it, number one, to build wealth for yourself. And there's going to be a certain point, how much wealth do you really need? Like how awesome that you could help others that aren't able to help themselves, right? Give back, give them some hope. Maybe that's what they need, a little bit of push that they can lift themselves up and their families. So kind of a new path, right? Of going after, everything we've talked about. And I talk about not giving up. And, 2 years ago, after 11 years, I did find that paper again from the mortgage company. We went back to court with some attorneys and we won, I'm still proved that we were wrong, that, wrongfully imprisoned, and still working on some things. And, but it's about not giving up. And that's what I wanted to show my kids, especially that how important that is. I tell you that my kids are now in that, they're in high school, right? Typical high school kids. They have fun. They're, sports, different things in ASB. But I'm trying to teach them things that in life, whatever they end up wanting to go do in life, whatever job profession they would do, but how important it is to bring in real estate and passive income into their lives, starting from when they're younger, to know the importance of it. Because I think a lot of people don't teach that. And for me, we're kind of on a mission right now. I mentioned the kids are on a TV show. It's coming out this year called Kids Who Flip. It's showing, 5 kids kind of flip their own houses, which is pretty darn amazing. Proud dad over here, right? But there's a special thing about it where my kids are excited to do it, not for the fame, but I told them, what if you motivate some younger kids, some young adults, even some adults, to push a little forward and try something they've always wanted to do? Show them the importance of real estate. Show them what it can do for you, even if you do it on the side.
That's good. So Jesse, you had mentioned when you first had come out, your mindset was, you said focus on self, focusing on you, and saying, hey, you know what? Everything here is going to be redeemed through me rising, above, rising through the ashes and going and making all this stuff happen. Has that mindset evolved over time, or has it remained the same? Because initially you're coming out with nothing, and now you're continuing to grow. You're continuing to do all these great things, but financially, in terms of the size of your business, number of employees, like everything's bigger at this point. So is it really the same mindset, or has your mindset evolved over time?
It's definitely evolved. I mean, when I came out, remember, I was broke, right? My first, it's your core, right? Your core is usually, like I said, for me, it was my wife and kids. To know what I just went through, and I should have never gone through it, and how easily my mind got, my life got turned around. It was horrible to know that can happen in a split instant. I hate to say this, don't plan on going ever to jail again. But my point is, what if I get sick? Let's be realistic. You never know. And so did I have things in place? So it was an aha for me. So I can't say my mindset in the beginning was get to a point that me and my family will be okay forever, no matter what happens to me. So that was my first mindset. I could tell you when I got there, I did push away like a lot of emotions and different things. So I was, I didn't know I had taken this to the 15 million. I really didn't. It was kind of like, oh my God, cool, we got here. Like I was working so hard that I didn't even know to what level I was taking us, because I was so focused. And then when the dust settled, my mind frame shifted, right? I started thinking, wow, am I happy? Am I working on myself? And I think that was the new set of mind frame. Like, what am I doing here? And then, hey, do we retire? or do we keep going? Like, we have a powerful system. We have team members. Like, how awesome that I'm providing jobs for other team members, that work for us, right? I mean, like, I care about them. They help us out. We have something good. And two, I'm still always learning. And now the mind shift went, wow, can we do this? Not only build wealth for the family, but can we also give back, right? Can we do some things that, because of the money we're making, we're actually helping others grow? I mean, we started AJX Capital, and we opened the doors for more investors to join us. Like, we're in growth mode right now. We're buying more apartments. We have over 1,100 rental units now, and we're still doing flips. And a lot of people don't even know what they can invest in. They have old 401k sitting there. They don't know what they can invest with us. People have lines. People don't want to refinance right now, right? Because of the low interest rates. Well, we have several of our investors that are refinancing. They're getting lines of credit, sometimes 6, 7, 8%, and they're making 15 to 20% with us. So we're helping people build wealth for themselves. And I think that when I get those thank yous every so often, man, it's just I think that pushes me in my mind frame. Man, keep this up, keep this going. Like, this is something that I know how to do. I've worked so hard to get there. Why not keep going? It's not easy. It's work, but I don't know. It's a different way of thinking. So it has evolved over the years on your different points in life. But trust me, I remind myself where I was a long time ago and not to forget it. I'm not that guy. I'm not splurging. All my mentors, they're the most frugal guys I've ever met in my life. And I hope that one day people say that about me, that I've been taught and I can share the importance of money and being careful with it, because you don't know what happens tomorrow,
Yeah, that's good. And that was one thing I heard in your story too, because I'm like picturing this, and the way you painted the picture for me was, you walked into the courthouse that day, the day you got locked up. You walked in there thinking like, okay, let's do what we need to do to settle this. Like, this is going to take a couple hours. And like, the next thing you know, it's like, all right, come and get them. And it wasn't like, hey, go settle your family matters. Go, do this, go, meet us tomorrow. Like, it was just like 2 years later, all of a sudden you're walking out. Like, that's insane.
It was shocking. And trust me, people, we talk about, man, how did I not go crazy? It's not an easy thing. And you just got to keep telling yourself that you can get through it. You can get through it. You can get through it. And again, I say that like it's easy, but it's not. You just have to push yourself. And because I can tell you, it's good to have friends, family, people behind you that are helping you. But at the end of the day, the only one that could change it or push yourself is you. You're the only one that can make that switch in your head. So that's why I say it's so important to work on yourself first, because if you don't have your mind straight, you can't do anything. Trust me, I work on it every day. I can't say I'm like, I'm perfect over here, because I'm not. But it's in knowing that I can work on it every day and tell myself something, and or see me helping someone, me sharing my story. I've heard people come to me and say, thank you. I needed that. I didn't think of it like that. And I'm moving forward now. To get those little messages every so often, man, it makes me want to share my story more.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Well, good on you for doing that, man. So not only has your mindset evolved over time, but clearly your business has. Can you talk a little bit about that? When you first got out, what it looked like, start flipping a couple houses here and there, and then what it kind of grew to. And I know you're doing quite a lot. You have over $100 million assets under management, like this big old portfolio. You buy apartments, all of that stuff. I know that didn't happen overnight. Can you sort of paint the picture of how the business evolved over those years?
Yeah. So rental income for me is a slower growth process, right? You can grow your wealth. When I came out, we literally were at zero. I think we had, my wife and the team members kind of tried to keep it going, but it again, we didn't have anything prepared. So when I came out, we were literally starting from scratch. But I came out like so aggressive, so hungry, right, to get us back on top, that I took us very quickly. Within the first 2 years, we're already doing like 70 to 80 flips a year in San Diego. And for me to get there, it was building process, building the teams, right? It's about being smart. I couldn't do it by myself. I mean, even right now, like without my team, man, we couldn't. There's no way we could be doing everything we're up to right now. And so it's finding the right people, having people with the same core values, right, that they want to push and they want to work and they want to get to that point. And so coming out, I really focused on flipping. And why flipping? It was an active income type of income that you get faster, right? And so I know I needed that to start, right? To pay our overhead, to put food on the table. So I needed something there. So once we got that really going, I still kept going with that, but then I switched over to now buying a rental, right? I bought my first rental and it was 2018, so 2 years after. But then, so what I really quickly started doing, I started using my active income, paying our bills, whatever's left over, we were buying rentals. So now we're building that equity was building in each and every single one, right? So there's benefits of it. And so really focusing there that, we started buying rentals, then we started buying apartments, and that really grew our net worth very quickly, by doing that. So that was kind of like the game changer and my path to get to where I wanted to be. So like our fund now, I call it's AJX Diversified Real Estate Fund on purpose because it's diversified where it lets people invest with us on our flips for a quicker return, or our single family rentals, which could be a little bit longer, or our apartments that sometimes are 3 to 5 to 7 year place. I've learned it in being in this, every investor has a different goal. And sometimes it depends on where they're at in life. Some people want that quick income that they need something monthly or quarterly. Other people have, old 401ks that they change to self-directed IRAs that they can't touch anyway until a very long time. So they're like, Jesse, put it in there for a year or two. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just building wealth with you. And then you have other ones that, especially now with taxes, that they like investing with us in apartments because they get tax write-offs for that. So it actually helps them keep their money. Not only are they making money with us, they're actually keeping some of their own money that they don't have to pay in taxes. So it's nice to have that diversification. And some investors invest in all across. Some investors like one specific one. And that's kind of what I wanted to build, that we're really having the option for everyone to. Peace of mind is so valuable, right? To be able to sleep at night is something I think a lot of people overlook. Like how we talk about health, like, mental health. How are you sleeping at night? Are you worried about, your investment stuff? I'm never going to say they're going to go away, but if you can minimize those by investing what you feel, what you like how awesome is that we can offer that and almost be like that one-stop shop for however they want to invest, whether diversified or in one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And you're so right. I was like, when you were saying that, I was thinking, yeah, insurance, that's exactly what insurance sells. Peace of mind. That's it. And how valuable is that? How much, some people more than others, but my gosh, yeah, that's so true. So Jesse, at this point, I think you had said, your team's around 40 people. You guys are going strong. Like in terms of business, you have no desire to just stagnate or stop what you're doing or rest or anything like that. You guys are growing strong. You're going. What have been some big struggles for you at this point where you're at now?
It was over the last several years, it was the actual employees, right? I mean, the teams that the hiring, there's a reality, right? We have great hires, we have a great team, but over the years, I had to build it to get where we're at now. We've had some bad hires that has cost me a lot of money, and it's sad. It's because it's part of scaling, right? I mean, sometimes you get great people from day one because you've done your due diligence. And even when you do your due diligence, they don't end up being the right person, right? They don't fit your core values. You actually hire them. So in the business we're in, it could be very dangerous, right? I mean, of hiring that wrong person and trusting them. So for me, that has been the biggest struggle to get to the point where you have a great team. I can tell you that we have an awesome team right now, and I'm very happy. And to get there has been a roadmap to get there. And now that we're there, again, as we're growing, we're going to see what happens, but we have such great systems, such great people. We're so aligned in our core values that, trust me, that takes you to the next level very fast. And I think that's the exciting part for me, to see that finally after, years of hiring and firing and getting the right mindsets for everyone. And now, gosh, we almost become unstoppable. It sounds silly, but it's so true. I'm actually excited to see where this team is, where we're going to go, because we can go do some very big and amazing things and help a lot of people along the way.
I love that, man. That sounds so good. So what has been, it sounds like there was sort of like an unlock for you. I don't know if maybe it's like a tactical thing. Like you were trying to hire one way, then you learned to hire a different way, or maybe it was a mindset thing. But what was like, what has been the major unlock for you to start getting the, I don't know, better people, if that's the right term, but the right people, I should say.
Yeah. There's a little bit of mix, because I do use like even companies to help me hire. And, I had different people interview, and it just sometimes it's just not the right fit, until like it's called the right people, right seat. And I just sometimes there's a reason why. But the good part is that I don't go, oh, they're just the wrong person. You really have to deep dive and say, is it the person, or is it our process? Or what is the root reason? Because we hired them, we felt that they would be good for that job, and something happened. So trying to figure out what that is has been, I think, the biggest aha, and having really close measurables really quickly as you hire them to figure out that first and quickly. They talk about hire slow, fire fast, and it's so true. It's just don't waste time. The more time you waste with the wrong person, number one, they can scare your good people to want to quit because they have to deal with the wrong person. Or two, it's costing us a lot of money. So the sooner you kind of cut ties with that, the better. And, we've had, employees that we had to let go, and I wish them the best. They weren't our fit for our company. Doesn't mean they were bad at what they did. Doesn't mean that they're not, hireable somewhere else. It's just for our culture fit, they did it. You can hear me, I move fast. And that's not for everyone sometimes, but at the same time, it's what's kept our company in business for so many years, where I've seen other companies come and go. Like I penny pinch everything, right? We got to make sure we're not overspending. We're, what are we doing? Are we buying this property right? Like there's so many check marks that we've put in our systems to be able to do the volume we're doing, and again, we have investors with us. So it's so important for us to make sure that we have those checklists. We're double and triple checking of what we're doing,
Yeah. So it sounds like big picture, putting your all into like just the skill of hiring. We'll kind of categorize it as hiring and getting better at it. You talked about like you make a bad hire, you look at it. Okay. Did we have a flawed process? Was it the right person, wrong seat? Was it the wrong person? And just all those aspects. Is that what I'm hearing?
1000%. And so knowing that, right, it's also when you have someone, you feel like, oh, maybe they're not the right person, and you deep dive and you do find out sometimes it is the right person. We've had that too, where we're thinking, oh, they're not the right person. And then we find out it's our system. It's their process, right, that we put in place that is not, there's some communication error right there, and it's fixing that. And once you fix that, then you see them elevate. I mean, that's even awesome. That gets me excited to see when we do think it's a person, and then we dig in and we like, no, it's us. It's our process. And we switch things around, and now that person excels at their job. Like we've had that so many times, and it's amazing. Like it's nice to take ownership, right? I'm the owner. So I always take ownership of, you can blame your employees, you can blame, your teams and everything, but no, it's me as the owner. Like we hired you, right? So why is that happening? Figure out the process. So if I don't take the time to do that, then I'm not doing my job as a CEO, and so it's nice to finally get, I'm always learning. People can hear and say they're perfect and they know everything, and that's not me. I'm always learning. And I enjoy learning. Right? I like feedback. Like give me feedback. I'm not that. In our business, like in our company, like give us feedback. We're going to make the final decision, the leadership team, but give us feedback, because we might be missing something that we're not seeing. Why aren't you hitting your numbers? Tell me your reason why you think why. Maybe there's something there that we should be doing for you to help you hit your numbers that we didn't think of, so.
Yeah. That's so good. So man, probably one of the scariest things, scary in a good way, but the scariest things I realized recently, and I don't know why I thought about it this way, but I love building skills. And when I build skills, I understand the importance of repetition. When I started out like hiring, I started with like entry-level jobs, like cleaners in our cleaning company, subcontractors, like things like that. And so I would just go through them. Well, I got to a certain point where then I started hiring managers, but I didn't have the experience of hiring very many. And recently I was like, we just have to do more. Like, I'm not getting the product I want. We're not getting the product we want, the output, whether it's the right person, the right seat, or, whatever it looks like, the team that we envision, whatever that looks like. We're not getting that yet because we haven't done enough reps. And that's sort of like, for a minute, I was like, oh man, because it can be so tiring hiring people, and you'll go through this entire process, and then you get what you think's the right person. Then you put money and time and like all this, and then they don't work. And you're like, I got to do that again. And now at this point, the cool thing is I've gotten over it. I'm like, yeah, I got to do it again. And we need to do it faster. Like, we don't have all day. Like, come on, let's get going. And like, let's learn, let's look at it. And like you said, where did we go wrong? Was it a process? Is this the right person? And it didn't work out, and that's our fault. Like, we need to change our process. Or was this the wrong person, and why did we hire them? Or like, what is the answer? And that was huge for me. It was, albeit it was like scary, but that was huge for me, So I hear a lot of that in what it sounds like you guys have done.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly where we're at. And it's such, again, doesn't mean everyone, even listen to this, like, doesn't mean you have to scale. It's really your comfort zone. But just know that when you scale, it's just making sure you listen, even like podcasts like this and about hiring and firing, and doing your homework on that, right? Like, how important it is before you do decide to scale and get those next employees and grow. And if you want to take yourself to that next level, if you want to take that route, don't just jump into it. Make sure you're being smart, because that's going to take away time and money by not doing your homework as an owner or a CEO of a company. That you should be looking at this and making sure. And if it's not you, hire someone to help you hire. Like, make sure they're doing the due diligence and stuff. So it's such an important thing for your business that, like you said, when you have those bad hires and you fire the people where you thought, oh, they were the perfect one, it brings you down. Like, it starts making you go, do I even want to grow anymore? Do I want to go hire someone else? And just, if you look at the big picture, as long as you know that this is part of it, it might happen, but make sure you're doing the right thing, because you're going to get those fires all the time. And it's not their fault. It's your fault for not doing, the studying what you want, where you really need for that position. Are they the right person? Did you really call the references? A lot of people say we do it. No, they don't. We don't call it. It is like they must be good. I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that, Devin. Someone laughed at my joke. I'm like, oh, they're good. They fit.
You are not lying. And I feel like it takes discipline too. Gosh, we had one the other day. Oh man, we fell out of our process. I said, hey, I'm going to step in and do an interview, and everybody watches it. I won't make the decision. I'll just do the interview. And then everybody watched it, and we said no. And we feel good now, but in the moment, I think having the discipline to say no was hard, because it was like, let everybody down. We were like, oh, we're finally going to fill this position. And everybody was filling that. And, but now we're in a better spot. And guess what? We're actually actively in the process. We have like 3 better candidates that we're excited about right now. And so it's just remembering that. Jeez. So Jesse, man, a lot of really good stuff and a lot of, huge wins along the way. When you think back to your journey and you think back to building this company, what's like probably the biggest one, or one that like really sticks out to you that, I don't know if proud's the right word, but you're like, man, that was really, really a huge one that you reflect on.
But I would say it's actually right now. And it's right now. And I say that because I shared with you the struggles we went through with the bad hires, and putting the systems in place. It wasn't fun. I learned so much. Right. And for me, I think I'm so proud and I'm not, to be honest, I'm not necessarily proud of myself. I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of the people that have come aboard that deserve to be with us, and that I am happy and lucky that they're on my team. Like that, it's exciting to take a step back and look and see 40 people on my team that you feel are the right people, and you could see them committed to your company because we're all winning at the same time and that they care. I think that is what I'm proud of. I think that is seeing something, you know, you hear this last story of what's happening now. That was over the last 2 years. My point is, it's taken 2 years to get there. This isn't one thing that happened, in 1 month and we fixed it. It took a while to get there. But now, like I said, I heard myself use the word unstoppable, and I believe it. Like that makes me proud to know that I feel comfortable. We can go take down a 200, 300 unit apartment building, and I feel comfortable with my team doing that right now. Like we are so ready to go. It's nice to look back and know that if you would have asked me that 2 years ago, I don't know. Like we were going for it and we were learning, but we have such better systems, process, people in place that it's almost like, man, I'm excited about this year because now it's just about bringing in the deals and just growing. Like, I mean, how awesome is it to the fruit of your labor for so long and, ups and downs and stuff that you finally got this to a machine that you wanted to get to, right? I mean, I didn't have to scale, I didn't need to. I made the decision and I knew there was going to be, bumps in the road. I didn't know how many, I didn't know, you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, I didn't know. But now I could tell you, I don't mind expanding to another city. I don't mind expanding. Like my team is ready. We have the systems in place. We can go buy apartments anywhere in the country. Like, I mean, if they make sense, so it's such a very cool feeling that your hard work finally pays off. And I think that's what, hearing what you said, being proud of yourself. Like, don't forget, sometimes, especially as CEOs or owners of a company, we move so fast that we get a win and we don't even celebrate. We're just already moving on to the next thing. Take a step back and pat yourself on the back and realize what you've done. I think when I talk about I got to 15 million, I was moving so fast. I didn't even know we hit 1 million, 2. I wasn't paying attention. Like I was moving so fast that I never gave myself a little bit of credit. And be proud of yourself, be proud of your team. Like, thank everyone. Like, don't forget, sometimes we move so fast, we forget to thank people because we move very fast. Not everyone's built like that, but I'm just saying personally for myself, I know I do that. But I mean, I get a smile at the end of the day. So it's always a win.
I love it. Oh my gosh, such good stuff. Well, Jesse, now you guys AJX Capital is rolling. You got some good things coming up for AJX Homes. Can you share a little bit of that with our listeners and really how you see yourself helping others build a legacy through AJX Capital and all that y'all are doing?
Yeah, well, with AJX Homes, I mean, we're still flipping in different markets, right? Mainly San Diego and Tampa. We have some in San Antonio. We're really hyper-focused in Tampa and San Diego because they're really great markets that move very fast. And I like getting in and out on these flips, right? So really hyper-focused on that. And so that's a lot of active income that we're bringing in there. And we're allowing people to join us through AJX Capital. And that's why we started it last year, because I kind of wanted we've had investors forever. And I really wanted to open the door to more people. As we're growing, we're going to need more investors. So how awesome is that people that, again, have active income? When we talk active income, people have their W-2 jobs, right? I mean, we have a lot of doctors and dentists that invest with us, but it doesn't mean in any position, right? That's active income. What are you doing with that money? And so I wanted to open the door to people have whatever extra money you're savings, and if you're not making a certain percentage on that, where we can help you maybe double or triple that interest that you're making, just it's sitting there in the bank or whatever it's doing. Or even a lot of people in stocks right now, right? I mean, with everything that happened, they're not too happy with stocks. It doesn't make you feel good. And if I can give them something that's actually has an asset behind it, in real estate, a flip, a house, a rental, apartment, like that was the excitement of building AJX Capital, of opening up that door for people to invest with us. Like I mentioned, picking and choosing what they want to invest in, depending on what they're looking for. Going to build wealth. Like so many people have old 401ks, right? And I mentioned that they don't even know what to do with them, and they're sitting there. Like, to be transparent, I got a letter recently. I just saw that I had one from UCSD. I didn't know about. I literally got it this week. And it had 36,000 in it. I'm not saying it's. Oh my
gosh.
So my point is, I literally did. I thought I didn't have it, and I got it in the mail, and I should have checked a long time ago. So I'm guilty. What am I going to do with that? I'm going to roll that into a self-directed IRA, and I'm going to invest. So it's eye-opening that so many people don't even know what they have from, there was a big shift in during COVID that a lot of people left their current jobs and they had 401ks and they're now literally sitting there not making hardly anything. And they don't even know that they can change that to a self-directed IRA so easily with my team and move that into investing in real estate. So that is the goal of AJX Capital, to open up knowledge, whether they invest with us or not. I just want people to do their, like, how important it is to whoever you invest in or whatever you invest in, make sure you're doing due diligence. It's trust, but verify, right? You have to ask them a million questions, hold them accountable of what they said they're going to do if you give them the money. But before you even give them the money, if they're not answering your questions or they don't want to, they're not the right person you should be investing in. You have to be able to go in there and know you've asked every single question that lets you sleep at night to make you feel comfortable to invest. And even after, a lot of people give the money and then they disappear and they just wait for their check. I don't think that's the right way to do it. This is your money. You should be making sure that you're getting communication to whoever you lend that in. That's why we send out monthly or quarterly letters and information, or we have a portal, make sure that everything's there, that they can see it. You wake up at 3 a.m, worried about your money, you can click on it and see where it's at and see where we're doing, or you can reach out to someone on my team. So that's the exciting part for me, AJX Capital, opening up that door. It's you can go to investajx.com, or if you want to reach out to me, you go to investwithjesse.com. Either one, it takes you to me and my team, and we're here to answer a million questions for you guys.
Man, I love it. I love it. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for spending this time to share your story with all the listeners and share it with me. Man, it's been good. Before we sign off here, any last minute words or any word of encouragement that you have for somebody who's just at rock bottom right now and they happen to hear this podcast?
And it's, remember that life is always going to have adversity. Some of them are big, some of them are small, and they're never going to go away, in my opinion. There's always going to be something going on in your life, and that happens to everyone. So as long as you can just remember that and know that that is part of life, doesn't mean you can't, I just lost my father in February. I'm still grieving, but I'm still moving forward, right? It's accepting that's part of life and accepting that's going to be a sadness, but don't let that stop you hit your goals. Don't let that stop you hit your dreams. Don't let that stop you hit your plan, right? So it's pushing yourself and never giving up. I feel like that is the biggest thing. It sounds, I know, easy for me to say, but you just can't give up. You can't give up. You can't give up. And have that mindset. Tell yourself that every day.
I love it. Well, there you have it, folks. Jesse, once again, thank you so much. I appreciate it. For our listeners, until next time, we'll see you.